Good afternoon, good afternoon. Marissa Guevara Diaz, hi Marissa. I'm all on live and just jumping on here for a quick bit, literally a quick bit. Just wanted to touch on a couple issues. Can't stay too long because today is the National Awards. I wasn't planning to go, but my parliamentary colleagues convinced me to attend. As I said, I wanted to be a rebel because my viewpoint is if the intelligence entities or agencies had indicated that it was not safe in a state of emergency to have the Prime Minister, the President, members of the judiciary, other members of the government, opposition, all in the same place, then that's basically what we're going to do today. But yeah, what they said, forget them. So I'll probably just go on. I highly doubt I'll stay for the after party. And Niles, good afternoon. Patricia Batiste, hi Claire. Shadi Ross Toussaint, good afternoon. Judy King, Angelo Joseph, Alison Boyce. Good afternoon, Alison. I understand today is your birthday, so happy birthday to you, Alison. And of course, Republic Day greetings to all the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago as we celebrate our 49th anniversary Republican status. Deanne Charles, hi Deanne, Rena Jennings, Marlene Panton, Leon Joseph, Kaylan Jackson, hi, Deborah Duranty, Rudolph Barnett, greetings. Selena Koshi. So let me just jump into it one time. Like I said, I don't plan to be longer than an hour today because time is against me. So just a few things. So today, this evening being the National Awards, and we see that the government has taken a decision to honor the players for TKR on their victory in this year's CPL. And of course, nothing is wrong with that. What I have an issue with, of course, is the government prostituting the National Awards for looking for political mileage. Because obviously, with that victory, they know that those persons who celebrate or who follow cricket would be pleased with the decision to award the players. But to make such a sudden decision, because the office of the president, under whose auspices the awards are being held, would have sent out invitations a long time ago. Arrangements would have been made in terms of seating, in terms of catering, and all of these different things. And for the government to just come on Monday or Tuesday, assuming that they would have made that decision yesterday or earliest Monday, to inform the office of the president of this. So they have to now go and get new awards, additional awards, and all of these different things, probably to adjust the program. And that's just how they operate, vai. But it's really them seeking to find ways and means to whitewash the hardship that they have inflicted on over 40,000 persons who've lost their jobs in the last almost 5 months, and the families of these persons who are also suffering hardship because their loved ones who provide for them are now finding it difficult so to do. And so this hapless administration that has no answer to the foolishness that they are doing and the impact, seemingly they don't care, but the very people, they're sycophantic supporters who for 10 years accused the PNM of being heartless and cruel and uncaring. If they had done what this administration has done, it would have been a horse of a different color, right? A different story, but they're not holding this government to account. And I keep seeing the nonsense that their supporters posting, trying to defend foolishness and the indefensible, talking about, well, the PNM spent the last 10 years and they destroyed the country and they destroyed the economy, and 6 months is not enough for the UNC to be able to turn it around. Well, that's not what they were saying during the election campaign, right? That's not what they were saying, right? They gave the impression that put them in office, and within a matter of days, Trinidad and Tobago would be the land of milk and honey. As I've said before, every morning when I wake up, I pull my blinds looking outside to see if the yard is covered in milk and honey. And to date, no such thing. Far from it. And Mrs. Posadi says so over the last few months leading up to the general election, every time she was interviewed by the media, she would start off her discourse by saying, everybody's suffering. So I just want to ask the supporters of the UNC, is it that nobody's suffering anymore? The over 40,000 people who have lost their jobs, they're not suffering. Because if they had jobs and they were suffering under the PNM, then no, nothing has improved. The cost of living has not gone down. The price of the pumps has not gone down. The cost of groceries has not gone down. Utility bills have not gone down. In fact, nothing has changed. Absolutely nothing has changed. And if people were suffering while they had jobs under the PNM and now that those jobs have been taken away from them, is it that their situation has improved? They're not suffering anymore? Mrs. Prasad Bissaso, who was so concerned about all of these people who were struggling in the lead up to the general election, she now holds the reins of power. And what is she doing? Taking away these people's jobs is not a form of oppression, right? But the PNM were the oppressors and Rowley was the dictator. Anyway, so let me give you an example of one such person who's struggling. One Ancilla Kirby Scott, right? And that name might ring a bell for some of you. So she is Trinidad and Tobago's candidate for the Mrs. Universe pageant, right? So she's representing her country. And she put out a post 2 days ago under the caption, feeling emotional. And it reads, financial institution. So she's giving a narrative of an experience that she recently had with a financial institution that she has business with. Financial institution. Good morning, ma'am. Your account is currently in arrears. And it takes a lot for somebody to come on social media and pour their hearts like this when it comes to their personal business, because not everybody wants the world to know that they're struggling financially and otherwise, right? Some people prefer to maintain the facade of dignity, even though they're really going through it. Me, this is Miss Kirby Scott speaking here. Good morning. I have been actively seeking employment, but without success so far. My contract was terminated on June 30th, and I had already communicated this to head office. Now, she had a government job, right? So she is one of the casualties of the loving, caring UNC government. Financial institution. Can you still come in and make a payment today? Me. Ma'am, as I just indicated, I cannot pay the full amount at this time. I may be able to make small incremental payments until I regain employment. Financial institution. At some point, you will have to make a payment as your account is not covered by insurance. Why is that? I don't know. Me. This is Mrs. Scott. I understand, ma'am. I know you have a duty and obligation to your company, but please also understand that I am genuinely trying my best under very difficult circumstances. Lesson, her personal reflection. Forgive me, I am only human. The countless regret to inform you emails and unanswered applications have been discouraging, but I continue to try. Sponsorships and grants are scarce, so I have shouldered the responsibility on my own. Despite these setbacks and ridicule, I have never tried to hurt anyone or stand in the way of others. I've always loved my country and wanted to give back, even when it has meant being squeezed by hardship. I never wanted to add to the brain drain. I was simply happy and content with being financially independent, and all I ask now is the opportunity for decent employment. And this is Ancilla Kirby Scott, who, as I said, is the Mrs. Universe Trinidad and Tobago's representative to the Mrs. Universe pageant. Now, why I raise this one is because, as I said, she had a government job, and she's one of the casualties of this loving, caring UNC government, who thought it best to implement austerity measures, which they challenged and cursed the PNM out for. The same measures that the IMF would recommend, even though the PNM managed to stave that off for 10 years. And within a matter of months, they came in, and the same austerity measures that they were saying was wicked and evil and draconian, they have now come and implemented them with gay abandon. Right? So it was bad under the PNM, but the UNC come in and their supporters, as I've said before, have now developed the patience of Job when it comes to the management of the economy, and they understand why these difficult decisions must be made. And Mrs. Prasad Bissaso quite recently referenced those difficult decisions that must be made in order to manage the country's finances. But when the PNM was telling you all that for 10 years, oh God, the wicked, and they only care about the 1%, and Rowley this and Rowley that. Right? But Rowley didn't take the austerity measures to the extreme, and he spoke about it. When Mia Mottley came in as Prime Minister, one of the first things her government did, facing same economic challenges, was to fire a number of public servants. Thousands of public servants went home in Barbados, and Dr. Rowley would have referenced that, and how his administration, though facing difficult economic times, because unlike the People's Partnership, who had oil prices in excess of $100 for the majority of their tenure, and gas prices significantly high, possibly around maybe $6 to $8 per MMBTU during their tenure. And they were able to enjoy, according to Prasad Bisesa, the highest energy revenues in this country's history. When the PNM came into office in 2015 and the oil prices had started to fall since 2014 and gas prices as well, and they didn't have the luxury of the type of monies that the People's Partnership had, and they inherited from the People's Partnership a back pay for public servants to the tune of some $6 billion, and also an increased recurrent expenditure for public servants in terms of salaries. They didn't send people home. They didn't say, well, hey, yeah, let me do what like Barbados and so on, and to stave off IMF, let us implement our own austerity measures and cut and send home people. Now this administration is talking about, well, not only talking about, they've already started the process of not renewing contracts for public servants who are on contracts, right? And so a number of persons, I know a few of them, who are now unemployed and looking for work, their contracts having not been renewed or extended. But the Prime Minister is talking about them wanting to fill all these thousands of vacancies in the public service, some 13,000 plus vacancies. One would think that if you were inclined to fill these vacancies, you would look first to the people who have been holding on to these positions, who have been acting in these positions for a number of years, who have the experience, rather than bringing in new people who you now have to train and who now have to learn the job. And that comes at a cost, right? They're not studying about that, because we know they just want to bring in their people. They have promises. They love to say promises made, promise kept, promise delivered. That is their tagline. But the opportunities for them to say that have been far and few in the last 5 months, right? So that's what they're doing, finding ways to reward their people, their activists, because their plans were thwarted with CPAP and URP, right? So now they have to find more innovative ways. And who are the casualties? But again, some of them who are now unemployed, whose contracts have not been renewed. You always were chanting, yellow is the code. Yeah, yellow is the code. When UNC wins, everybody wins. Reminds me of some people that I met during campaigning in my constituency. One young lady who told me, I grew up in a PNM household, but and as always vote PNM. She said, but right now, I feeling that yellow is the code, She said, but I consider it. I don't know if she probably did go and vote for yellow is the code. I don't know if she passed in the rush of unemployment. But in raising this issue about this young lady who is representing the country, who has exhausted her finances and now finds herself having to, well, at the beck and call of this financial institution, she's unable to pay. And she has to now go to this competition to represent her country with this mindset, knowing that her bills are piling up. Her ability to pay these bills is diminishing on a daily basis, and she now has to balance trying to pay something on these bills with the little that she has left, and so that her financial independence has been impacted. How can one go to a competition like this with that mindset, when the weight of debt and bills on your shoulder and you're struggling and unemployment, and when you come back home, you still have to face these things, and that this competition will just offer a very short respite, right? And it wouldn't even offer a respite, because you go in there and you're seeing all of these other women happy and they have the support. Shamfa Kojo put out a post, which I think is most apt in reference to Keishon Walcott and Jereme Richards. And it reads, "The day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit." And she extends heartfelt congratulations to both gentlemen. And she goes on to say, during our tenure of government, extended the Elite Athletes Assistance Program. She said, "I stand with the people of our proud nation, humbled by your unwavering commitment and pleased to have extended assistance and support through the years. During our tenure, our government extended the Elite Athlete Assistance Program to provide financial support to our athletes, and in 2017, we established the National Rewards and Incentive Policy Framework to reward athletes for medals earned on the international stage. To this end, a gold medal winner at the World Athletics Championships is entitled to a reward of $500,000, and silver medal winner is entitled to $250,000. I celebrate this moment with our star athletes, and I salute all these athletes who continue to strive for excellence in honor of the red, white, and black. So when we heard the Prime Minister mention yesterday that Keyshawn Walcott was going to get 500,000 and Jerome Richards 250,000, that was PNM policy. But when she said, the cabinet took the decision to give the impression, well, it is this benevolent, loving UNC cabinet that made this decision, and that is UNC policy. That was PNM's policy, right? Because the PNM put that in place according to Shampa Kojo since 2017, and so the UNC was simply following through on that. But the same sycophants, their supporters, who rejoice, Keyshawn this and Keyshawn that, and Keyshawn Blight under the PNM, he didn't win nothing. And the last time he won a goal was under the UNC in 2012 when Kamala was Prime Minister. Now UNC come back, and when UNC wins, everybody wins. And now that Kamala come, the PNM Blight wash away, and Keyshawn win and Jerome win. But just last year, I think it was earlier on last year, when Keyshawn would have received 250,000 under the very same elite athletes funding program that Shamfa mentioned here. The same sycophantic, hypocritical UNC supporters were all up and saying, where you getting that money for? He ain't win nothing. What you do? Why they giving you that money? All that noise they were making. I remember I was supposed to come and do a live to speak on that and to get into detail about the elite athletes program and what was in place. But for some reason, I didn't do it. Because I think I kept pushing it back because other things kept popping up. But I felt the need to talk about it then because of the hypocrisy of the UNC. And they didn't understand what that elite athlete funding program was for. And that the $250,000 was to assist Keyshawn in preparation for all of these various, and not just Keyshawn, but the other athletes as well who benefit from it. And there are different amounts that they get, but I think 250 is the highest amount that they get to assist in preparing for these various competitions, to assist in paying their coaches and other members of their staff, their physiotherapists and so on. And I saw that Keyshawn Walcott would have credited his physiotherapists for assisting him and helping him to get into shape for this competition. And that 250,000 that he got, that the UNC supporters who today want to claim him as their own, right? These hypocrites, when they had a problem with it last year, that 250,000 that the PNM gave him would have assisted him in securing this new physiotherapist and so on, and coach as well, to be able to deliver as he did. But today, Keyshawn is the best thing since sliced bread. But a year ago, you all didn't think so, right? That was a waste of money. They always know better things that the money could be spent on healthcare and education and paving roads and so on. They didn't want him to get the money. But now that he win, oh yes, let us celebrate him. He deserved to be a sports ambassador, and he deserved this and he deserved that. They could tell you all the things that he should get. Always after the fact, never before. And so when I read this post here by this young lady who is representing Trinidad and Tobago, struggling to get sponsorship, no support from the government, right? She's doing everything on her own, as well as with the assistance of whoever is the franchise holder for the pageant. But if she goes abroad and she wins and she come back, oh yes, big thing, we spending money, we finding money to spend to host big event in the airport when she comes back, and then we want to spend money to parade her all over the country, and yes, we're so happy. And all of these corporate entities that don't want to sponsor and wouldn't put out a cent, they will find the money to put out big full-page ad in newspapers to congratulate her for such a wonderful job and representing Trinidad and Tobago. That's how it is. Never the support before. But when these people struggle and they go and they do their thing, without the support and they win and they come back, oh yes, we must celebrate them. And all of a sudden, the money that we couldn't find before they went, we can now find it to be able to celebrate them. The hypocrisy, right? But I'm saying this is the support that they need now, and that this young lady needs now, because she's struggling, but yet still she hasn't dropped out of the competition. She still plans to go ahead, and it's not about her. It's about representing her country on the international stage. And she is not in the frame of mind, based on what I am reading here, to really fully represent, but she's going to put her best foot forward, despite. And if she does win, then that will just make the victory all the more sweet. To say that notwithstanding the struggles that she's going through, she was still able to go out there and represent and make a good showing of it, right? But we cannot absolve this caring, loving UNC government that has taken away her job from her. but she had a job under the wicked, evil, heartless PNM. Yes, government job. All right, but they'll come and talk nonsense. So she's probably PNM, but as David Nackett says, anybody who is PNM should be fired. Because apparently, once the UNC is in power, PNM supporters, citizens who are PNM supporters, not entitled to anything that the government has to offer. All right? Just thought I'd make mention of that. Second point. So this developing story with respect to, before we go there, so the Prime Minister has finally spoken as it pertains to Philip Alexander. And it is unfortunate that her commentary, her utterance with respect to Mr. Alexander had to come not just based on her feeling the need to make a statement, to denounce his actions, given how deplorable it was. And the fact that he felt the need to not just come and do a live and talk a pack of nonsense about Modi having Trinidad and Tobago in the palm of his hands, and if Venezuela play mad, that India would nuke Venezuela. I mean, and then he comes to say that it was just hyperbole and he didn't really literally mean nuke. So what did you mean? It doesn't matter what, even if you didn't literally mean nuke, your use of the term was meant to give a certain impression. All right, that somehow, if we were to find ourselves in challenge or some sort of confrontation with Venezuela, that India stands ready to come and intervene on our part, on our behalf, right? Whether it be military or otherwise. But we know that is what he meant. And the fact that it was said, and there was no condemnation, no public condemnation of Mr. Alexander by the Prime Minister. Therefore, he felt empowered to continue to post nonsense and rubbish. And we only heard from her when a journalist would have asked her to seize the opportunity yesterday to ask her about it. And she said that he was out of line, and she informed him or advised him to stay in his zone, and that she and her government do not support his utterances. All right? But if that question was not posed to her, she would not have said anything. Just like when she took a decision not to refund property taxes that were paid over the last year, right? Despite the fact what they were saying on the campaign. You had press conference after press conference, post-cabinet press briefing, and she never spoke to that issue as a cabinet decision, as a cabinet policy. It was only when, again, a member of the media, a journalist, posed the question to her at one of the post-cabinet briefings. Then she said, well, she don't know nothing about that. She never said that. She never made any such promise. And if Mr. Tanku indicated such, that he needs to tell the population where he's going to get the money from to refund those property taxes. But she never said that. And again, this is something as significant of that knowing that citizens were of that mindset and of that belief that that was going to happen. As Prime Minister, if that was a decision that your cabinet took, then you should have come to the post-cabinet press briefing and state that. Because you come in the post-cabinet press briefing to talk about who had bus route passes under the last administration and who was benefiting from state housing and so on. And you spoke about those things, and you went on to call the names of persons who had bus route passes under the PNM, something as trivial as that. That to my mind certainly doesn't measure up to a government decision not to refund property taxes when your party would have given that impression. All right? But it's always the media having to ask. And if that question wasn't asked yesterday, she would not have indicated that she would have reprimanded Mr. Alexander. Right? So, but that doesn't absolve her, because again, it shows, just as 2010 to 2015, poor judgment in her selection of people to serve in the government. This is just another example of it. Because everybody else knew that Philip Alexander does not belong in government. Philip Alexander does not or shouldn't be anywhere near the parliament as an MP, as a senator. He should not be there. She didn't know that. She wasn't familiar with this man's mouth before appointing him to that post. That, like the leech that he is, that at the last minute he come and latch on to the UNC, brought nothing to the table, nothing of substance. You didn't bring any seats. You get 25% of the vote in Port of Spain, North St. Anne's West, regardless of who the UNC would have put there, would have gotten the same thing. So he brought nothing of substance to the table, but he was rewarded with a nice, cushy senatorial position, a ministerial position, and taking home $70,000 plus perks every month for doing nothing. Absolutely nothing. And by his own admission, feels grossly underutilized. And so because he has nothing to do, because he's grossly underutilized, he has the time on his hands to be able to make some stupid utterances and be on Facebook all day and TikTok posting a set of rubbish, right? Because he has no government work to do. I saw where his ministerial colleague, Anna Roberts, put out another post in response to Chief Whip, PNM Chief Whip, Marvin Gonzalez, calling for a probe into allegations made by senior prisons officer Mr. Guada in respect to claims that Minister of Homeland Security Roger Alexander would have visited the prison on several occasions to meet with certain high-profile prisoners. And it is the responsibility and within the remit of the opposition to call for such a probe. This is a national issue. I don't know what the UNC and their supporters think the opposition is supposed to do. They were in opposition for 10 years. They understand, right? They used to be questioning everything. When they, in 2015, when the PNM came into office, they weren't willing to give the PNM any honeymoon period. They were there for 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days, and did in some cases irreparable damage. And their sycophantic supporters weren't willing to give the PNM a month or 2 months or even 3 months of a honeymoon period. They expected the PNM to come in and fix everything, the mess that they made. But now, what the PNM feel is an overnight thing. They just come in, they're still new. It's been 5 months. They said they were going to fix crime in 6 months. Look at the kind of crimes that we've seen in the last few days with this young 12-year-old who was murdered. Among other crimes and murders that we've seen taking place, I saw a story this morning trending with a lady whose body was found on, I think, Clifton Hill Beach or something like that. She left work yesterday saying she was not feeling well. She was not feeling well. And they found her body there, and they suspect that there might be some foul play and that she may have been murdered. Right? But we're under a state of emergency. And other than the state of emergency, this government has done absolutely nothing to treat with crime. Every time you ask the Minister of Homeland Security, so what is the anti-crime plan? As he says, it's not crime plan, anti-crime plan. I can't tell you. Keeping that under wraps. Right? Because we don't want the criminal element to know what we're doing. But you're not doing anything. The population isn't seeing anything other than the state of emergency. And we know that it's really the state of emergency that has contributed in a significant way to the reduction in the murder rate year to date as compared to where we were last year. And it started when under the last administration, at the end of January, February, we were seeing decline in the numbers, and it was being reported by the police. And the trend just simply continued because the gap that there was when this administration came in at the end of April, it was some 70 or less murders year to date as compared to last year. And that trend simply continued. And in recognizing that, they decided, well, in the absence of anything else to treat with crime, no solid plan, well, let me just institute another state of emergency. And if anybody questions that is what has resulted in the reduction in the year-to-date murder figures, just take a look at Jamaica, right? For the first time in over a decade, Jamaica is on course to record less than 1,000 murders this year. As it stands right now, year-to-date, there are 350 murders less year-to-date than where they were last year. And again, Jamaica has been under constant states of emergency, whether it be countrywide or in specific parishes. And the impact of those states of emergency is now starting to pay off. So, whereas last year they were at some 800 and something murders year to date, I think they're now at about 4 something or approaching 500. But with just 3 months left in the year, right? More than likely, they are going to record less than 1,000 murders for the first time in over a decade. When last year it was just about 1,100 and something, the year before that some 1,300, the year before that 15 or 1,605 murders and so on. That is what they were reporting. But this administration has done absolutely nothing outside of that state of emergency. Nothing. Only crafted, they come in with this stand your ground legislation, which seems to be they told us it was going to come in, I think, in September, and now they've had to change the date because with the consultations that they've been doing and the crime talks and the stand your ground consultations, they're realizing the population simply is not ready for that legislation. It is not. because the way in which they sold that legislation is that anybody come into your home, right? You have a firearm, because it was, even though the legislation does not speak specifically to firearms, the way that it was sold and marketed to the population, it is impossible almost to have a conversation about the standing ground legislation without mention being made of the word gun. So anytime anybody hears standing ground, the first thing that comes to their mind is gun. And then the government having said that they're going to bring legislation to make it easier for law-abiding citizens to acquire firearms, everybody figure, yeah, you see the standing ground? Yeah, somebody come in your home and you get a gun and you shoot them. We've had the Minister of Defense talking nonsense, telling the population that you could shoot somebody in the back even if they're trying to run away. Once they would have come to your home and attempted to invade your home and so on, even if they're making a retreat, that you could shoot them in the back. And some mention was made about police and even if people come knocking on your door, calling out police, you could open fire or something. But we will deal with that in more detail at another time. But it is that inflammatory rhetoric that has created the situation now where people are of the belief that once the standing ground legislation comes in and you are fortunate to acquire a firearm and somebody invades your home, that whereas normally you might look to hide, you might look to retreat or something of the sort, now you could play mannish, pull your gun and open fire. And even if it is the perpetrator doesn't have a gun, there's the belief that this legislation allows you to just take their life, load up the matic, pull it back, knock it on them and knock it again. That this legislation will allow you to empty the clip, reload and empty it again. That this legislation would allow you to light them up, as the Prime Minister would have said when she was leader of the opposition, repeating that night after night. And so now they've realized that it is difficult to get the citizenry to disabuse themselves of this belief that they would have planted in the minds of citizens. And so how do they fix that? But we will treat with that comprehensively when the debate comes up on that, because I intend to speak in that debate. Just to let you all know, tomorrow evening at 6 p.m., P&M Red House and at Chrissy Trace, corner of Chrissy Trace and Southern Main Road in Chaguanas, we will be having the second installment of our standing ground legislation consultation. So those of you who are inclined to attend, please feel free to do so. All right, but just coming back quickly to Philip Alexander, and Prasad Bisesa finally reminded him, publicly so, thanks to the journalist, that for the next 4 years and 10 months, she owns his testicles. All right? He seems to have forgotten that a requirement of becoming a minister was that you had to surrender your testicles at the door when you came into the House of the Rising Sun. And it is only upon leaving that you will get it back. Right? And you are beholden. So unless you have you don't have the cojones to be able to step down, because when he weighs the options, should he leave and lose out on $70,000 a month plus perks for doing absolutely nothing on a daily basis, right? As opposed to just stay. You could to lose that, what he will do? Go back to just being a counterfeit wannabe 1%er. Because what was his occupation prior to coming into government, other than just a loudmouth rabble-rouser on social media? I think I heard him say that he was involved in property development or something like that. But the amount of lawsuits that he lost and the amount of money that he has to pay to so many people, right? He desperately needs that 70,000 plus perks per month to be able to satisfy these judgments. So he can't afford to, allow his ego to get the better of him. So he will eat humble pie, since she humbled him and reminded him publicly, just as you said, Mr. Modi holds Trinidad and Tobago in the palm of his hands, I hold your testicles in the palm of my hands for the next 4 years and 10 months. Pat down. Know your place, right? Stay in your lane. And she says she hopes, those were her words, she hopes that he would do so. She can't guarantee, because she knows he's a loose cannon. All right, but he, based on his latest post talking about, big men can take correction and so on, and his only ego is for kids and all this kind of nonsense, and he supports Prasad Bisesa 100%. No, you're supporting the 70,000 per month that you're getting that you can't afford to lose right now, and all the perks that comes with it, aside from the, perks to be able to buy a car with exemptions and all the other things that you get as a minister, as well as being invited to all of these functions, because they like to bunks up inside there. Yeah, Senator, the Honorable, he likes that. Senator, the Honorable Philip Edward Alexander. There's nothing honorable about that man. Absolutely nothing honorable about him. Right? But they like that. They like that play. And they walk in that room and, hey, minister, come in, and everybody had to stand up for you when the minister arrives. You know, they like that play. As Jack said, it is like sweet nectar to them. So can't give up that. So he will eat his humble pie and hopefully learn from it and pat down as she told him. All right, but she just gave a brief statement on that. And then I see, I was mentioning earlier, his ministerial colleague, Anil Roberts, who did a live couple days ago to chastise Marvin Gonzalez for calling for a probe into this most serious matter. But again, had to go down the homophobic road, right? Because, you know, he calls Marvin Marva and all kind of nonsense, and Marvin was the minister of man. This is as a senator. Now this man is a government minister, still a senator, but a government minister now, and is doing lives and saying these kind of things, right? Talking about Marvin calling for probe, but you know Marvin like probe, and so you know what he means, all right? Insinuating and implying that Marvin Gonzalez is a homosexual or whatever it is, and continues with this nonsense, and then calls out other members of the opposition, right? Talking about help Marvin with the probe and all kind of stupidness. That is this bald-headed degenerate. And this is the caliber of people that Kamala Persad-Bissessar has foisted on you, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. I draw to your attention as well the fact that the Jamaican cabinet was sworn in a few days ago. How many members in the government of Jamaica? 19. Jamaica has a population of just a little over 2 million people. Just a little over 2 million. And they have a cabinet of 19 persons. But in Trinidad and Tobago, with a population of about 1.45, 1.5 million people, we have a government that comprises almost 40 persons for a smaller population. Almost 40 people, and Jamaica, 19. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. What does that say? But of course, the sycophantic supporters of the UNC will find ways and means to defend that foolishness. The United States of America, right, with a population of 335 million people, has a cabinet of about 23 persons. 23 persons. Yeah? But in Trinidad and Tobago, with a population of 1.45 to 1.5 million people, we needed a government comprising a cabinet of almost 40 people. That additional money that is being paid to these persons like Philip Alexander and Anil Roberts and David Naked, who clearly have no work to do. And as I've told you all before, the salaries of one of these men could have paid 30 CPEP workers for the month. So what we pay into one person to do absolutely nothing on a monthly basis, 30 persons could have been paid with that money. And Mr. Roberts was doing his live, not from his office, as he's accustomed doing, abusing the public office. He was making that live based on what he said at the start, in the Dominican Republic. Dominican Republic, not Trinidad and Tobago. I wasn't aware that we have a satellite office of the Ministry of Housing in the Dominican Republic. This man has been a minister for what? Not even a good 5 months yet, and he already taken vacation? Had to be a vacation. I think he probably went to Guyana too for the CPL match, right? But we paying him over $70,000 a month, and he has the time to go to the Dominican Republic, because why? He has nothing to do in the Ministry of Housing, no work to do. You don't see him in any events, save and except if they have some little something in the office, in the ministry, and they require a photo op. You might see him and Alexander in the picture with David Lee, but otherwise to that, they have little to no work to do. That is why they have time on their hands to be able to whole day cussing out the PNM and its supporters on social media. And that is what you, the taxpayer, pay to these men for no work, but they want to talk about ghost gang. What is the difference between them and the people that they claim are ghosts? We need to get rid of the corruption and the ghosts who were earning less than $2,000 a month. Yes, we had to get rid of them. Drawing public funds on false pretenses. What's the difference with these men? This man in particular. We saw the other day, Naked was in the Middle East. I can't remember if it was Lebanon or wherever it is. But they have time. They're so busy and so tired that they needed to take a vacation. Less than 4 months into office. All right? And yet they're making that kind of money. And we have people out here who were doing the work, getting up out of the bed every morning, when they would like to sleep for a few more hours, having to leave their children home to go and cut grass on the side of the road, keep the country looking decent, unlike what currently obtains. And it wasn't just cutting grass, helping, because as I said before, as an MP, I would have experienced as a candidate, there were issues in the constituency during walkabout where you see there was garbage sometimes, some places, and I would have been able to call on one of the contractors, listen, we have a problem here, if you could send your team to just do a little cleanup here, no problem, MP. And they send them there and they come and they do it. These are the things, make the place look decent, right? But you deprive these people of $2,000 a month, but you're paying one man 30 times that, and 35 times that. And he have time on his hands to be able to go to the Dominican Republic and cost the PNM from the Dominican Republic. But all you vote for that, yellow is the code, ain't? Yellow is the code. When UNC wins, everybody wins. So he win, naked when Mr. Alexander win. What about the others? Who themselves? Because if that is the situation in that ministry, I think it's safe to say that given under the last PNM administration, when most of these ministries had one minister, the only ministries that I think had two ministers was education, which was Nian Gatsby-Dolly, and my predecessor, Lisa Morris-Julian. In the Ministry of Housing, you had Camille Robinson-Regis and former MP Adrian Leons. But for the most part, there weren't too many other ministries where you had ministers. I think in finance, which is a huge ministry, a lot of work to be done. You had Coleman Burt and Brian Manning. And maybe one or two others that might slip me at the moment. But for the most part, almost every ministry, you have a minister and parliamentary secretary. Minister in the ministry and parliamentary secretary, because everybody win. Everybody who win the seat, come and gabble. Right? Extra money. And as I said to you, now that the parliamentary committees convene from this month, there's additional monies that they're going to get as well. That's why I told you, Mr. Alexander, getting over 70,000 a month, because if based on what I would have seen, he's on at least 2 or 3 parliamentary joint select committees. All right? And he's going to get additional monies every month because joint select committees are standing committees for the 5-year period. So he's going to get additional monies for each committee that he sits on for the next 4 years and 10 months. All right? So his salary is going to go up this month. Andy Roberts' salary is going to go up this month. Nakid's salary is probably going to go up this month as well. Yeah? All of them. Got to get everybody a little something. Yeah, some of them serving on 6, 7 committees, and if you're a chairman, well, you get more money than if you're an ordinary member of the committee. So that's what it is about for them, you know. Yeah, they're bread buttered on both sides. Even butter, probably guava jelly. You don't know how expensive that is. Yeah, but them had time to hop plane and go to Dominican Republic and all over the place, and they could be gallivanting across the Caribbean going to CPL matches. They have that facility. While you have people here who every month when they look at the pay slip and they see how much money come out for PAYE and they're struggling and they could have used that to pay an extra bill. You have ministers gallivanting with your money. But yellow is the code. Let's see what's the time now. All right, so I just have about 10 more minutes. Just one more issue I wanted to touch on. And this developing story with respect to Minister of Homeland Security, Roger Alexander. So we saw yesterday, and of course we know for those of just a follow-up. This stems from a lawsuit or pre-action protocol that has been sent to the minister by prison supervisor Garth Guida, I think is his name, forgive me for the pronunciation, right? Who has been detained under the state of emergency, and he is now threatening to sue the Minister of Homeland Security for his detention, claiming that it is all personal and that Minister of Homeland Security, Roger Alexander, would have signed off on that detention order because of a vendetta against Mr. Guada. So the claim, of course, being made by Mr. Guada is that Minister Alexander would have visited the maximum security prison on numerous occasions prior to becoming minister, and it's even being alleged while as Minister of Homeland Security, when he was no longer in the police service, came to speak to certain high-profile prisoners. And Mr. Alexander would have, as we saw last week, would have attempted to evade questions by members of the media as he went to Parliament. However, it was reported that the Attorney General would have advised him that he should make a public statement on the matter. And we were told that he was going to have a press conference on Monday, and which press conference did not take place. Instead, we read Mr. Alexander some comments that he put out, which, again, unbecoming of a minister, talking about telling the attorney for Mr. Guida to tear up the pre-action protocol letter and fold it in a certain way, and where she could put it, if she's familiar with what the rock is cooking or whatever, and where she could put it, basically telling her to put it where the sun don't shine, but not in those exact words. And this is a minister of government, a full-fledged cabinet minister, making probably close to $90,000 a month, talking this nonsense, right? And again, it speaks to the ability of Prasad Bisesa too, when it comes to selection of character. She's a poor judge of character. So we saw yesterday that a senior police officer, sitting senior police officer, would have come out in defense of Mr. Alexander. So let me get this here. And that just simply raised more questions than answers. All right. Let me just get this here. Where is the story? Oh yes, by the way, congratulations to Jillian John, who has been selected to act as Prime Minister in the absence of Kamala Prasad Bisesa, who is supposed to be traveling to New York to speak at the United Nations General Assembly. And I think that selection speaks volumes, suggests that Mrs. Prasad Bisesa may not trust other persons who are more senior to Jillian John. So not surprised at all with that development. Where is this thing? Where is it? So, right, let me just get this here. Right. So we saw yesterday there was a communique that was released by the TTPS. Interestingly, I wonder if the Goodley Commissioner of Police is going to launch an investigation as to how that confidential document would have found its way in the public domain, in the same way that he would have assigned somebody to investigate how the leave document found its way into the hands of a certain Facebook blogger. Where is this thing? Just now, folks, let me just let me see if I get this here. Where is it? Is the time there? Okay. No, another tweet with that on Sunday. Where is it? Where is it? All right. So in the letter, I think it's ACP Smith, I think is his name. Forgive me. Just let me just get this here. There's just so many things to talk about, and as I said, I don't have the time today. So let me get this here. Right. TTPS defends Alexander over prison visit. He did nothing wrong. This is the article. Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has broken its silence defending Homeland Security Minister Roger Alexander against ongoing allegations that his meeting with alleged gang leader Rajahi Ali earlier this year was unsanctioned. This comes hours after a copy of a request for permission letter signed by Assistant Commissioner of Police Northwest and Special Operations Richard Smith surfaced online. Surfaced online, effectively debunking ongoing claims of a secret meeting with the alleged gangster. Confirming the letter was legitimate, Smith told Guardian Media that Alexander had not done anything wrong or illegal. In fact, he stressed the minister was only acting on instructions, and none of his actions can be interpreted as secret or in any way jeopardize the operations of the TTPS. Smith, who now heads the anti-extortion unit, confirmed Alexander had received permission to accompany him to visit Ali, who had been incarcerated at the maximum security prison at the time. The formal permission had been sought and obtained from Deputy Commissioner of Police, Intelligence and Investigation Suzette Martin. According to the letter dated January 17th, which had been addressed to Martin, Smith indicated he had received information from a reliable informant that Ali wanted to meet with him. Smith wrote, "As a result, I am seeking your permission to meet with the detained Raja'i Ali at the earliest possible opportunity." What was the reason for the alacrity, right? At the earliest opportunity. So Mr. Ali has so much influence that he could just request to meet with senior police officers and he say, "Hey, yeah, drop everything and go." That's how it works. Okay. I wonder if other prisoners have that facility. And you could just request to speak with a senior police, not a normal, a senior police officer, and they're ready to drop everything and just come and speak to you, right? All right. I am seeking your permission to meet with the detained Raja'i Ali at the earliest possible opportunity. I am also requesting Senior Superintendent Roger Alexander accompany me at this meeting. So what Mr. Smith needs to tell us is why did you select Mr. Alexander, right? Because I'm sure there were other senior superintendents available. What was so special about Mr. Alexander that you chose him to go with you and not any other? So, as I said, this just raises more questions. And this is why my colleague Marvin Gonzalez is calling for a full probe so that all of these questions could be answered, right? And therefore, there need not be unnecessary speculation surrounding this matter in the public domain because it doesn't augur well for the TTPS. Guardian Media confirmed Alexander, who had been recalled from vacation leave, had been on active duty at the time, working within the Special Operations Unit, which was headed by Smith. Alexander's actions at the time have now been called into question by Attorney Crystal Primus, who represents Acting Prison Superintendent Garth Guada, who is currently incarcerated at Tetron Barracks. Alexander resigned from the TTPS and successfully contested the Tunapuna seat in the general election on a UNC ticket. Guada, who remains detained under a preventative detention order signed by Alexander, is contending that the minister's visit was secret and improper and should be thoroughly investigated. Primus has argued that the meeting between Alexander and Ali may have involved discussions of pre-election support and promises of government contracts, and that Alexander's continued silence only served to deepen public speculation. You see. Meanwhile, although he shied away from responding except to say, right, in fact, the senior official said the meeting, which had been arranged by then Prisons Commissioner, took place in Guada's office at the maximum security prison, so it had not been a secret as Guada would have been aware of it. Although he shied away from responding except to say Attorney General John Jeremy would issue a statement on the matter, Alexander threatened to sue, saying attorneys have the responsibility to verify information before releasing it into the public domain. Okay. Of course, the Prime Minister has said that she has full confidence in her Minister of Homeland Security. She says, "I have seen letters and I suppose you all will see them in due course. Prepare," he will give his explanation, "but in the face of the documents that have come before my eyes, I have full confidence in the Honorable Minister." Well, we're not surprised about that because it's the same way you had full confidence in your Attorney General between 2010 to 2015, and he is now before the courts on a matter of, for now, this matter involving alleged witness tampering, right? And then he was before the courts on another matter, but we know the DPP would have dropped those charges on the basis that the key witness has decided not to testify, not because your former AG was absolved, but simply because of that, all right? But there is, as I said, this raises more questions because so who invited Mr. Smith to come out, ACP Smith, to come out in such stern defense of Minister Alexander, right? Did he do that of his own volition? Was he called and asked to do so? He just decided to jump out himself and speak on this issue? Is he also authorized to do? Because anything that he says must be backed up by the wider TTPS. So did he get permission from the Commissioner of Police? And the same way that he had to seek permission from DCP Martin to attend this meeting, did he seek permission? Was he granted permission by his seniors, his superiors, to make this statement in the public domain, which has now raised further questions? What are those questions? Lawyer probe Alexander over alleged meeting with gang leaders. Leaders, all right, plural, not singular. Raja'i Ali, as far as I know, is one man. So he can't be gang leaders, okay? The lawyer for detained prison supervisor Garth Guada has written to Police Commissioner Alistair Guerrero demanding a full and immediate investigation into Alexander over Guada's claim that the minister had held unauthorized meetings, plural, more than one. All right? This letter that the TTP has produced yesterday, that ACP Smith is swearing by, speaks to one meeting on the 15th of January. All right? One meeting with one alleged gang leader. What we are reading here is that Mr. Guada is saying that there were several meetings with multiple persons. So even if this meeting absolves Mr. Alexander of any guilt or suspicion with respect to that one meeting, Mr. Guada is alleging other meetings took place. All right? So he goes on to say unauthorized meetings with alleged gang leaders, plural, who are behind bars ahead of the 2025 election. Who are these other leaders? So we hear about Rajai. Who are the others that this claim by Mr. Guada is making? Following a pre-action protocol letter to Alexander last Friday, in which Guada alleged a vendetta behind his detainment and threatening legal action against the minister, Attorney Crystal Primus also on Friday issued a letter to the Commissioner of Police stating that Alexander's conduct raises serious concerns about the integrity of the Ministry of Homeland Security. Through the Freedom of Information Act, Primus has also requested records of all unauthorized visits, multiple, plural, not one meeting on the 15th of January, as this letter that was put out by the TTPS yesterday that was supposed to put this matter to rest speaks to. So it treats with one meeting, but we are reading here about multiple meetings. I continue. Right, so visits, all authorized visits by Alexander to the maximum security prison during the period under question and while he was on vacation. The letter to Guevara was headed Request for Investigation into Alleged Unauthorized and Personal Visits by Roger Alexander, Minister of Homeland Security, to detained high-risk inmates. The communication on behalf of Guada formally requested a full and immediate investigation into unauthorized personal meetings by Alexander, the current Minister of Homeland Security, with alleged gang leaders who are currently incarcerated in the period before the 2025 general election. So again, we're speaking here about multiple meetings, multiple visits, and some are being claimed to be unauthorized. Now, Mr. Guada, you know, fool, before he was detained and he was there in the prison and doing his work as a supervisor, he might have known which meetings were supervised, which meetings were authorized, and which ones were not authorized. All right? Because clearly, based on what we have read, based on the letter that was put out yesterday, communication was made or sent to the prison by DCP Martin requesting this particular one visit. But this suggests that there were other visits which the TTPS has not spoken to. All right, so are there other letters that we can expect to see come out? Or if so, why weren't all those letters produced yesterday? Rather than this one letter that spoke to one meeting and was supposed to put this matter to rest. Deliberate, appears to be deliberate and willful subterfuge and an effort to mislead and deceive the population. We continue. Primus also alleged in the letter that Alexander, prior to his appointment, engaged in a series of meetings with several gang leaders at the maximum security prison, specifically with individuals who are currently detained on serious criminal charges. Engaged in a series of meetings with several gang leaders, not one meeting on January 15th with one alleged gang leader. That the TTPS has not addressed this. They have not. And perhaps ACP Smith should have kept quiet and allowed the investigation or the probe to take place before jumping out to defend the minister, all right? And has now opened up a can of worms, a veritable Pandora's box. It goes on. Primus alleged, the letter to the commissioner also stated that it is further alleged that these meetings, plural, were held outside of official channels and without the requisite legal authorization from then acting Commissioner of Police and the then Commissioner of Prisons, Mr. Carlos Carraspi. So therefore, questions need to be put to Mr. Carraspi. Questions need to be put to the then acting Commissioner of Police, who would have been Junior Benjamin, DCP Junior Benjamin, all right, when these meetings are alleged to have taken place. But again, is this how the police does probes? A call has been made for probe. Serious allegations of a criminal nature have been made against no less a person than the Minister of Homeland Security and the TTPS, which is supposed to be independent. And the TTPS, who is supposed to conduct this probe, conduct this investigation, all right, decided to jump out to defend former colleague, Minister Alexander. So that right away pours cold water on any confidence that the wider population will have in any probe or investigation that the TTPS may undertake from here on in going forward, right? Because of how quickly they jump out themselves. A senior officer jump out himself, and this document finds its way into the public domain. Meanwhile, just a day or two before, we had the Commissioner of Police on a radio station talking about a certain document related to vacation leave that has been accumulated by senior officers, finding its way into the public domain and into the hands of a Facebook blogger, right? And he has assigned someone to do an investigation, a thorough investigation, to determine how that document got into the hands of the blogger and into the public domain. But a more serious matter, where we have this letter coming, where was it? Persons are questioning the authenticity of this letter. We've heard nothing from the commissioner with respect to that. And as I'm on the point of the commissioner, right, and I had to wrap up soon. I'll continue this on Sunday because I have to leave. I listened to that interview that the commissioner did on I-95. I think it was on Monday. And I must say, the commission, it was a colossal disappointment. To hear the commissioner boasting in an attempt to show that he is apolitical, that he has never voted in his life and he has absolutely no intentions of voting, right? And that should show well he is apolitical and he ain't supporting no party. So he's not beholden to anybody because he didn't vote for anybody. One does not need to refrain from voting to show that you are apolitical. All right? Jehovah's Witnesses don't vote, but I have spoken to a number of Jehovah's Witnesses who have views on the political climate in Trinidad and Tobago, who have expressed a preference to a political party because they are citizens as well, they are human beings, and the things that happens in the country and the governance of the country impacts their lives. And so while they don't vote for religious reasons, they still have a political view. That doesn't make them, so not voting doesn't make them apolitical. And based on the commissioner's utterances, it means then that anybody who holds senior public office in this country that requires them to be apolitical or requires them to be unbiased or impartial, that they shouldn't vote. So therefore, judges shouldn't vote either. Because if a UNC minister of government finds themselves before the court and comes before this judge must then declare, well, I didn't vote, so you don't have to worry that I'm a PNM and I'm going to be unnecessarily harsh, or I'm going to be, biased in dealing with your case because I don't vote. So don't worry. Do a poll to say, well, we have a UNC person coming before the court, so we need any judges here who don't vote, we need to assign the case to the docket of a judge who doesn't vote, so that would be proof that this person doesn't support any political party. Then doctors shouldn't vote either, because when a UNC person who supports the UNC comes to the hospital, they need to be satisfied that they're going to get the best treatment, and not because they're UNC and the doctor is PNM that they're not going to give them the best treatment. So they need to say, well, I didn't vote. I don't vote. I've never voted for any party in my life. I've never cast a ballot, so therefore you don't need to worry. I'm apolitical. I don't support any party, so you're going to get proper treatment regardless of your political affiliation. You know, many parents I spoke to within recent times, quite recently, I was having a conversation with with the operations coordinator at my office, who was telling me the challenge that she went through trying to convince her 20-year-old daughter to vote, who was eligible to vote for the first time on April 28th, right? And trying to convince her and her friends to vote, and they don't see the point in a way. What's the point of voting and waste her time, that thing, they're not. And she isn't the only person who has told me that. So imagine you fighting as a parent, fighting the battle to convince your child or children to vote. And then they sit down in the car with you on I-90, listening to I-95, and you going on the road, and you hear the commissioner of police saying, well, I never voted in my life, and I have no intentions of voting. Well, he just hand your children the ammunition. They need to say, well, mommy, the commissioner will vote, and he's the commissioner of police. So if he don't vote, who is me? He never voted in his life, and he's older than I am, and he not voted. And he boasting that he not voting because there's some badge of honor. So therefore, if he not voting, I not voting either. And talk done. How are you supposed to put up a defense to that or reply to that as a parent? Somebody holding the position of commissioner of police, you are supposed to be a role model of sorts. What kind of role model is that? When you feel it's okay to come on national radio and make a pronouncement like that, and then talk about, well, if he succeeds, that it will make the opposition look bad. Really, Commissioner Guevara? Need I remind you that the 13 of us on the opposition bench, we voted for you. We voted for you, sir. It was a unanimous vote. All 41 members of the House voted for you. We had no objection. Your CV came to us just as it went to the members of the government. We sat in caucus and we discussed it and we decided, okay, we like what we see here. He seems solid. Okay, we given him our support. And in fact, the one person who spoke in that debate on behalf of the opposition was the Chief Whip, Marvin Gonzalez, and he spoke glowingly of Commissioner Guevara. We voted. You know, the same thing you say you don't do and will never do. We did that. And we were empowered to do so because citizens came out and did exactly what you are boasting you've never done and will never do. They went and stained their finger for us so that we could be in the House, so that we could cast our ballot for you. So it is because of the vote that you've never done and plan to never do is why you are today Commissioner of Police, because we have a parliament. 41 persons who sit in the lower house who got there because of the vote, because of the exercise, persons who chose to exercise their franchise, which you intend not to ever do, so that you could show that you are apolitical. Really? Commissioner? Seriously? Come on now, man. We have a vested interest as citizens of this country to see you succeed. You think we like to see crime? When the PNM was in office for 10 years, they were bringing laws and the UNC didn't want to support it. We know that. It is the UNC that went to court and got the court to overturn murder as a non-bailable offense today. You have persons who are incarcerated for murder, getting bail and coming out and committing further crimes. UNC did that. They are in office today. Why would we want to see innocent citizens slaughtered? You think we are happy that this 12-year-old lost her life? You think when we pick up the newspaper and we see people losing their lives, and we say, hey, yeah, boy, we happy crime thing because we make the UNC look bad because they said the PNM couldn't handle crime. And look, you feel we happy about that? No, we're not. Because guess what? Some of the people who are being murdered are supporters of the PNM. Supporters of the PNM. Do you think when people get murdered in my constituency, I'm happy about that? No, I'm not. Or any type of crime takes place in my constituency, I'm happy about that? No. Because that's more work for me, because I now have to go and visit the family or find some way to commiserate with these people. So this nonsense about if you succeed, it would make the opposition look bad. No, it doesn't make us look bad, sir. We voted for you. We express confidence in your ability to be able to treat with the crime situation in the country. If we had concerns that your success would make us look bad, we would have abstained when the vote came and the government called for a division. So we had to put it on record how we vote. So they didn't just say all in favor, say aye, any against, say nay, and we could hide behind that. No, the division was taken and each one of us said yes. Because we were impressed with your CV and we believe that you have the skill set to be able to serve as Commissioner of Police, and that is why we came out and we gave you our vote. Sir, we wouldn't have done that if we were concerned that you could do such a good job to make us look bad. So when you're making these utterances in the public space, again, come on, think before you say it now. But anyway, we'll treat with that another time. Just to wrap up on this. Guada is further asserting that such meetings discuss pre-election support and contracts to be awarded in the event of success at the polls. Now, we know Mr. Guada said that he was present at some of these meetings, right? So he would have overheard what was discussed. And he's saying that such meetings discuss pre-election support and contracts to be awarded in the event of success at the polls. Now, people need to understand something, right? If you have Mr. Guada saying that this is what these meetings entailed, right? As misbehavior, okay? And therefore, if he overheard these things and he said nothing, he didn't report it, then at least that should be considered conspiracy. So this in and of itself, this admission now by Mr. Guada that this is what these meetings were about, and that for him to be able to say that, he must have overheard it. It means that he has a case to answer with respect to that you heard basically potential misbehavior if in public office. And if we are told that Mr. Alexander would have visited these individuals after he became Minister of Homeland Security and such things were discussed, then Mr. Guada would have been witness to misbehavior in public office taking place. And if he did not report it, then he is guilty by association, and that may be considered conspiracy. Now, why would he put his head out, stick his neck out, to face a possible charge of conspiracy, misbehavior in public office, if it wasn't true? Why would he do that? Because if he maintains his innocence with respect to his current detention, he did nothing wrong. Therefore, once it is proven so, he would be free. But why would you risk being freed on that charge and now making an admission that could really, even if you get exonerated from the charge for which you are currently detained and he's not charged, but even if it is that you are exonerated of the claims for which you are now detained, you face the possibility of walking into another charge based on utterances that you have now put in the public domain on paper that the Minister of Homeland Security, based on this, meetings discussed support, pre-election support, and contracts to be awarded in the event of success at the polls. This man was a candidate. And if it is that he was making, as claims are being made here, he was making deals such that if he comes into public office, that he would do certain things which constitutes misbehavior in public office. And Mr. Guada, as a officer of the state, had a responsibility to report that. And he didn't. All right, but he's now saying so. And my point is, if it is that he's now saying so, he's now basically admitting to possibly having committed a crime. Why would he admit to a crime that he didn't commit? I'm certain his lawyer would have told him, well, you know, hey, based on what you're saying here, this, as an officer of the state, this is a criminal offense you're admitting to here. You're sure you want to go down this road? And if he maintains, yes, he wants to, why would he put himself out on a limb to do that and to make a statement that is untrue? But I continue. In the interest of public transparency and accountability, and pursuant to the police service's duty to investigate potential criminal activity and breaches of law, I hereby demand that you conduct a thorough investigation into this matter. The police commissioner was also notified in Primus's letter of a formal request to Chapter 22.2 of the FOIA that you provide me with a copy of all records of correspondence, logbooks, and any other documentation that allegedly authorized these visits. Primus's letter included a copy in part of the FOIA request, seeking records for Alexander's visits to the prison from January 2025 to May 2025. We've only heard of one meeting on the 15th of January, but Mr. Guada is alleging other meetings that took place prior to Mr. Alexander being elected and after he was elected. And the prison records ought to show that. And if it doesn't, then two questions arise. One, did these meetings take place? Or two, did the meetings take place and the records, no record was kept because of the circumstances under which these meetings took place? All of these things need to be investigated. So when Mr. Anil Roberts wants to jump on his soapbox and chastise the opposition and challenge my parliamentary colleague for calling for a probe, as is his duty to do, he gets paid to do these things to ensure to keep the government on its toes. So this foolishness about we were quiet for the last 10 years and we should remain quiet, UNC colleague could rock so with that foolishness. I wasn't there for the last 10 years, right? So I could speak. And my colleague could speak too, because when we took that oath of office, that was the commitment that we made. So ease us up with this dotish talk about we were quiet for the 10 years and we weren't saying this and we weren't saying that, please. Right? We're doing our jobs. And when issues like this raise its head and the Prime Minister is prepared to say that she has full confidence in her minister and the population is asking questions based on what is in the public domain, we will call for the probe, right? And if it is Mr. Alexander is innocent, then he too should welcome such a probe. In fact, he should be commending us for calling that probe and supporting and endorsing our call for the probe to prove his innocence, rather than his colleagues jumping on their high horse to come and attack us and make it look as if we tried what? Primus stated, I specifically request the paper trail that permitted Mr. Roger Alexander to meet with these high-risk individuals, again, plural, not singular, as the letter that was put out by the TTPS yesterday purports. In the period before the 2025 general elections, provide also the details of the crime that was being investigated while Mr. Alexander was on vacation leave, and the email to the Commissioner of Prisons which requested such a visit. Primus went on to state, an acknowledgement of the letter to Guevara was expected, as well as a confirmation that an investigation has been launched. I trust that you will treat this matter with the seriousness and urgency that it deserves, Primus said. They go on to explain why Guada was detained, based on a detention order issued by Roger Alexander for allegedly assisting a gang under the ongoing state of emergency. The detention order signed on August 18th and gazetted last Tuesday named Guada as an alleged associate of the radical Islamic criminal gang led by alleged gang leader and murder accused Rajai Ali. So if in fact Mr. Guada is an associate of Mr. Rajai Ali and the radical Islamic criminal gang, why is he now seeking to betray this alleged gang and this alleged gang leader who the state tells us he's an associate of? I just asking the question, all right? Because clearly he would know the reach of Mr. Ali, okay? And he's putting his life on the line. The order against Guada, resident of Malabar Rima, so he is one of my constituents, as is the Minister of Homeland Security. So both parties are my constituents. So I have the pleasure of being their parliamentary representative. Stated that on the way in Malabar, if he living close to Mr. Alexander, stated that he has been confirmed to be providing support to other gang leaders and members who are incarcerated in furtherance of their participation and involvement in or commission of violent gang-related activities, including the imminently planned killing of public officials in public spaces using high-powered rifles. The order claimed that as prison supervisor, Guada repeatedly facilitated the breach of prison security measures for the benefit of the gang members and has been trying to engage in further breaches at their current place of incarceration at Tetron Barracks. The detention order further stated that the situation had made Guada a serious threat to public safety and deemed his detention at currently Tetron Barracks as necessary. The order said Guada had shown that he has the means and resources to assist incarcerated persons to engage in gang activity despite their present incarceration and is a threat to the safety of the public. So questions to be answered. Why did ACP Smith select Mr. Alexander to accompany him on these meetings? And there were other senior superintendents, persons of similar rank to Minister Alexander, who wasn't minister then, but a senior police officer, who he could have selected. What specific requests? How did Mr. ACP Smith receive this communique from Rajai Ali? Because he indicated that it had come to his attention that Mr. Ali wanted to speak with him, wanted to meet with him. All right. So he has to tell us, is it customary for senior police officers to be summoned by and to submit themselves to the beck and call of high-profile prisoners? And why did he, in dispatching this letter to DCP Martin, want to meet with Mr. Ali at the earliest possible opportunity, right? Why was he willing to drop other things that he's doing to run to the prison to speak with Mr. Ali? Why did you choose Senior Superintendent Alexander? Did Mr. Ali specifically request Mr. Alexander accompany you? I'm just asking the question. All right? Questions need to be asked. Was a request made of Mr. Alexander to come? And perhaps it was suggested to Mr. Ali that you should make the request higher up and request that Mr. Alexander accompany the senior officer. All of these are things that are in the public domain. And if it is that we are to maintain confidence in the Minister of Homeland Security and by extension the government, these questions must be answered. There's nothing wrong in asking these questions. So who want to vex? So just sweep it under the carpet and say, think that is bacchanal thing, and this man just trying to save his skin. But this man is admitting to having committed a possible crime, overhearing conspiracy, plots taking place for a potential future government minister to engage in misbehavior in public office. That at least warranted an investigation. All right, to ensure that this individual, if there was any truth in it, would not serve as a member of parliament or possible government minister. So by him saying that, he is admitting to potentially having committed a crime. So either way it goes, even if he's exonerated from his current detention and they find no evidence, as I heard the commissioner talking about on Monday, they have intelligence, but they don't have information. Right? They don't have evidence. They just have intelligence. Hence the reason why nobody has been charged with respect to the allegations that were made or the intelligence that gave rise to this ongoing state of emergency. All right? Nobody has been charged for being in possession of an illegal rocket launcher. Nobody has been charged for conspiring to blow up half of the Attorney General's office. Nobody has been charged for wanting to kill senior public officials, as we were told. No charges. Over 2 months later, as he said, they have intelligence, but they don't have evidence. So if anybody out there has evidence, and as he said to Daily Knock, well, you could help us. Maybe if you have information, if anybody else out there have information, please bring it to us so we know where this is going, right? These persons are detained. And in the meantime, it seems as if we're heading down the road of eventually we will hear that they have all been released without charge and possible litigation coming from such persons to sue the state for wrongful arrest and they weren't prosecuted, but wrongful arrest and the like. So this is where it seems, based on the commissioner's utterances, this is where it seems that we are heading. But just to say that letter yesterday, far from putting the matter to rest, only raised more questions that the TTPS needs to address, that, to my mind, firms up why there needs to be a thorough probe, because while the senior officer is pointing to having had one meeting and requesting one meeting, Mr. Guada is saying that there were multiple meetings with multiple gang leaders, not just one. So where is the correspondence for those other meetings? Mr. ACP Smith is saying that they were there for about an hour and a half. So there was no follow-up. This information that Mr. Ali brought to you all was so urgent, so important that you had to drop everything and meet with him at the earliest opportunity. And an hour and a half was sufficient for you to get everything. So did he make certain representations that you had to look into to determine the veracity? And if so, there was no follow-up required, Mr. Smith? So it was just that one meeting, and that was he coming to tell earlier, A, B, C, X, Y, and Z, and that was it? Nothing else? No follow-up? Okay. Oh boy. Meanwhile, we see that the Venezuelans are moving closer to Trinidad, all right, and they have indicated that they intend to deal harshly with human trafficking and drug trafficking and all of these different things. We have the U.S. government stating that, demanding that President Maduro release certain prisoners held in custody in Venezuela who may be U.S. citizens. And as Mr. Trump would have indicated to him, that failure to release these prisoners would result in the U.S. dealing very, very harshly with Venezuela. Okay? So we've moved from wanting to deal with the situation as it pertains to drug traffickers to now demands are being made for the release of certain prisoners, and failure to do so, failure to abide by these demands, could result in the U.S. taking strong action against Venezuela. Okay, so it again serious. It's getting sticky. And to Mr. Alexander, when you talk about nuke, as someone would have pointed out to me, I think yesterday, that even if such a thing were to happen, because he talked about, I think somebody talked about nuclear submarine and US, some nuclear submarine or whatever it is, which again, that if any nuking takes place, given our close proximity to Venezuela, we would be within the blast zone, all right? And the nuclear fallout from that, if any nuking were to take place, would definitely affect us, Mr. Alexander. So next time you want to make dotish utterances like this, please don't feel that because we are 7 miles away that we're safe, okay? As I was told, you're looking at a radius of at least 33 miles for any nuclear weapon, okay? So the nuclear fallout would be serious. And they didn't want the smelter plant because they thought it would give you cancer and kill you. That's why we do have a smelter plant today that could have been generating much needed foreign exchange that everybody complaining about, right? Because if we had the smelter plant and the People's Partnership hadn't shut it down in 2010, simply to say promise made, promise kept, promise delivered, and they had done their homework, which they did their homework before they took the decision to shut it down, because there's a cabinet note from 2010 which shows that the smelter plant would have been profitable at $2,200 US per ton or whatever it is. And that cabinet note points to the benefits, the significant benefits and the income earning potential, the forex earning potential of that smelter plant. Now, they have to now deal with the claims from the Chinese company that had invested money to build that smelter plant. They have now inherited it. The PNM had managed to start the process of negotiations, but it has now fallen back on them. So let's see where it's going to go. All right, just making that point. But if they didn't cancel that smelter plant, we would have been making plenty US dollars today, and it would have been able to make up for any shortfall that you all claim came about as a result of the closure of the refinery. Even though every time I hear people talking about the refinery was a foreign exchange earner, and so on, I keep asking, how did the refinery earn foreign exchange? And the supporters of the UNC could never answer that. How did our refinery earn foreign exchange? Simple. It was by selling the refined products to other Caribbean countries, as well as, for instance, the jet fuel, that when these foreign airlines come here and they need to refuel, they would purchase fuel that was coming from the refinery, and they pay in US dollars. They pay in foreign currency. We still do that. Instead of us now selling the fuel that we were producing at the refinery, the fuel that we are importing, we sell it to the same Caribbean countries who were purchasing from us when the refinery was in operation, and we're still selling jet fuel to all of these international airliners that come here, and they still need to refuel. We're selling it to them too. So the same way that the refinery was earning foreign exchange, the country continues to earn foreign exchange through barrier. So that hasn't changed. It's just that all of the associated costs with the refinery, we are now saving on those costs, so it's more money in the coffers of the state. All right? Just making that point. So next time you want to talk about the refinery as a foreign exchange earner, the same activities that was taking place at the refinery to be able to generate foreign exchange, we are still engaging in it through a company called Paria, which you all are very familiar with. All right? But the so-called bright people, men and women of letters, like that, not so clear for them. Oh, Lord. Good question, Leonard Baines. Slimy Show, did you have your live the other night? Because when you were leaving, I mentioned to you that the last time when you said you were going to go on live, and I went on YouTube and I pulled up and I saw your page, but no live came on, and I waited for a few minutes and nothing. Right? So just saying that. So folks, as I said, I have to leave early because it's already 3:05. I'm half an hour over the time that I said I would stay. And we have to be seated at Queen's Hall for 5:30. So I have 2.5 hours to get ready and jump out. Okay? So enjoy the rest of your Republic Day holiday. Whatever it is you're doing, please exercise moderation. If you're going out, stay safe on the black carpet. And we will chat again on Sunday, God's willing. Also, again, birthday greetings to Alison Boyce, and congratulations to Mr. Warner on the court having permanently stayed any extradition to the United States. I heard he said that he wants his life back and that he is ready to serve his country. In what capacity, I do not know. I do know that when the UNC won the election, that he and Anna Roberts both indicated to the Prime Minister that they are ready, willing, and able to serve. Mr. Roberts was selected, and he is now a minister in the Ministry of Housing. So we wait to see if Mrs. Prasad Bisesa would find a position for Mr. Warner, who is 82 or 83 years old, I think. All right? Let him say he wants to assist football again. So we'll see how that goes. I don't think this exoneration, though, in the local courts allows him to travel still, because the US still, from what I understand, wants him extradited. Right? So the charges have not been dropped in the US, but it's just that the government is no longer obligated to comply with any request by the US for Mr. Warner's extradition going forward, as that those extradition proceedings have been permanently stayed. All right? And Mr. Warner used to always tell us Clark and Batu will take him before the US authorities do, and it seems he was correct. So the next one to watch is EMBD. As I told you all on Sunday, they're starting to play the fool, and the judge has warned them he will not tolerate any manipulation of the court's process in an attempt to delay this matter. All right? But they have the choice, because it's a civil matter, I believe, to drop the case. So we'll see how that develops. All right? Marina says she not congratulating Mr. Warner for nothing. Oh, boy. I hear you. I hear you, Rena. I hear you. Uh, Slimy, sure, I'll try. I'll check you out again today. Um, Daniela Williams, I hear you. Yes, oh yes, a lot of work was done there. I agree with you. And again, development such as that doesn't augur well for the state, um, independence of the state, especially with the alacrity with which the Attorney General would have moved in treating with this matter. All right, but it is what it is, and yeah. Slimy Show is saying I did a talk on Lisa Morris Julian and how she was murdered. Oh Lord. Slimy Show, I have no evidence of any such thing. All right, but I'll go back on your page and see if I come across that that show. Okay, so enjoy the rest of your day, folks. We will chat again on Sunday, God's willing. All right, take care.